I believe I have us not completed with chapter 14 yet. Is that correct? We got about 3 questions left, and then our true and false. On page 31 is where we'll be. And this is Acts, from Acts chapter 14. So these are finishing up here, Paul and his first missionary journey. And this question is number 13, says, name all the places visited and revisited on the first journey. This is from chapter 13 and 14. I think we might have done this one, but we'll go back through these and see what everybody come up with. Antioch. Seleucia, okay. Cyprus. Okay. Salamis. Looks like salamis, but yeah. Go ahead. Okay. Paphos. Okay. Perga. 2 Antiochs, if we remember. Antioch in Pisidia. Okay. I'm sorry? We have not done Italia. Okay. Some I put down twice, but go ahead. Iconium, okay. Lystra. Derbe. What was that last one? Lycaonia? Where's that at?
This is what we looked at on the map.
Yes, we looked at all these on the map, and this would have been a good time to have had it back up
A
there.
good time to have the map. We
Yeah.
saw that they came down, got on a boat, went to the island of Cyprus.
Andy, can you get my map up?
I can.
It's on the front cover there. It just says Paul Journeys Maps or something right there. He'll get it going for us here in a second. And we talked about the arrows of how they traveled. It'll take a minute for that to come on, but let's go on and we'll come back to that one. Number 14. So when the first journey was completed, Barnabas and Paul gathered the blank together and told them all that God had done with them and how he had opened the door of blank to the blank. Okay, so they gathered, what did they gather? The church together, and told them all that God had done with them and how he had opened the door of faith to the Gentiles. Okay? And then number 15 says, what 2 things did the lame man do after he was healed? He leaped and he walked, okay? So now we're back to, we've got the map up there now, and you look at, where did they start at, Al?
Antioch on the right-hand side there.
Okay, they started at Antioch on the right-hand side. The first thing they done was went down to Seleucia. And why did they go down to Seleucia?
That's where the boat is.
That's where they got on the boat, okay? So they got on the boat there, they sailed. If you see the arrows, the purple arrow, it's going down to Salamis on the Isle of Cyprus there. They went from there to Paphos. And it looks like, according to this map, that they went from Paphos up to Italia or Italia, whatever you want to call that, and Perga there. And then maybe up to Antioch and Pisidia, over to Iconium, Lystra, and Derbe. There it got brighter. Okay. Around there in Derbe and back up to Antioch, back down to Pamphylia, and then sailed out from there back to Antioch. So as they went through, what were they doing? What was this journey really for? What were they doing it for? They were preaching, teaching, and what? Establishing churches, yes. They were establishing churches. When they come back through, what does it say that they were doing?
Revisiting.
Revisiting, what was the word it was using?
Encouraging.
Encouraging. It says, uses the word confirming. Confirming. What do you get when you think about that word? What do you get from what is the meaning of that? Confirming. It's almost like you're reassuring them of their beliefs, okay? You are making sure that they understand that what they're doing is the proper thing. So when he comes back through there, he's basically checking up on them, right? And is this the only time that Paul's going to check up and follow up on them?
Look at that.
No. He's going to follow up on them some more. Then what's going to happen later on? He's going to start writing letters to them, right?
Yeah.
When he can't be there in person, he's going to give them some instruction, right? So all of these epistles that Paul writes later on hasn't taken place yet. He's visiting, he's establishing these churches. Now that's what's taking place in these first journey here. Then he revisits them to confirm them. What else does he do? Back up in number 11 in this chapter 14, it says, Paul and Barnabas ordained elders in what? Every church. Okay? So they established the churches and they ordained elders. This doesn't happen overnight, does it?
No.
So there's a lot of time involved in this. I don't know the exact timelines. That's something I would like to find out. They don't say that on
Yeah,
there.
that's down the left-hand side.
Yes. First missionary journey of Barnabas with Barnabas and Mark was from AD 46 to AD 48.
2 years.
It took over 2 years
Unbelievable.
for this journey to take place.
This is walking.
Walking, and not only that, but they were staying there for quite some time. At the different places they were staying there. We talked about that in one place where it talks about that they stayed there for quite some time. All right, the map really helps to get a feeling for what was going on. We talked about when we first started talking about that, like from Italia, where they come into port there, up to Antioch, we said we estimated probably 130 miles maybe walking, but it's not flat. It's not level walking either.
90 miles across Cyprus.
90 miles across the Isle of Cyprus there. You get an idea about the mileage. I mean, before they ever got on the boat, it was about 30 miles down from Antioch to Seleucia there, so
Right.
a lot of walking. Okay, let's look at the true and false. Number 1 says, Paul and Barnabas never spoke to Jews and Greeks in the same synagogue. That's false. That's false. Number 2, although the Jews tried to stir up the Gentiles against Paul and Barnabas, they were unsuccessful. Well, that's false as well. Number 3, Paul and Barnabas stayed a long time in Iconium speaking boldly in the Lord. I told you we talked about that. That's true. That's true. And number 4, it was impossible to divide the multitude of the city of Iconium. Well, that's false. That's what it said they did, right? Number 5, both the Gentiles and the Jews tried to use Barnabas and Paul despitefully. Yes, that is true. Verse 5 from there says, when there was an assault made both of the Gentiles and also of the Jews. So they both were trying to do that. Number 6, when Paul and Barnabas went to Lystra and Derbe, they took their own good time, fearing nothing. Whew, I messed that one up. What'd y'all come up with? But that sounds like it'd be false, don't it?
Use the word fled.
Yes.
That's not.
They fled. What were they fearing? Yes, exactly. They were afraid for their lives because they were fixing to get them, if you will. They said that they were to use them despitefully and to stone them. The end of verse 5 there we just read. Number 7, the impotent man at Derbe was healed by Paul. False. was at Lystra. Not at Derby. Trying to throw you off there, wasn't he?
And he was healed by faith. Your faith was healed.
Yes. Okay. But it wasn't at Derby. Okay. Number 8. The impotent man had never walked before. That is true. All right. Number 9. Some of the people of Lystra thought Paul and Barnabas were superhuman. Yes, it's true. They thought they were gods. Yes, little g, gods. Number 10. At Lystra, Barnabas was called the chief speaker. No, who was? Paul. Paul was called the chief speaker.
It was also called Hermes.
It's called what?
Hermes.
Hermes?
Yeah, or Zeus.
Okay. Or Mercurius in that one. In the King James there. Okay. Number 10, at Lystra, Number 11, both oxen and garlands were type of animal sacrifices. False? What were garlands? Okay, it's a wreath on maybe they wore on their head or something like that as a crown. It was simply what we think garland of garland is today, some type of plants and things. Yes. Number 12, Barnabas is never called an apostle. False? Verse 14 says, when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of this. Okay? Number 13, the people tore the clothes of Paul and Barnabas. No, they rent their own clothes. I don't mean rent, they tore their own clothes.
Clothes got torn.
Yes. All right. Number 14, the people of Lystra were told they were following vanities. True? Okay. 15, in times past, God suffered all nations to walk in their own ways. True? Yes. Number 16, even when the disapproval of Barnabas and Saul, even with the disapproval of Barnabas and Saul, the people almost did sacrifice to them.
Yeah, they wouldn't listen.
It wasn't listening, yes. And that's part of the reason they were renting their clothes, right? Okay.
It's kind of neat, they ran through the crowd. They didn't just stand there and go, hey, don't do this, No, they ran through the crowd.
Okay.
Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this.
Right. Okay. Number 17, the idea to stone Paul originated in the mind of the Lystrians. False. Where did it originate? Iconiums and Antioch? Okay. All right. Number 18, Barnabas ran off and left Paul when the Jews stoned him. False. Number 19, when Paul revived, he and Barnabas went immediately to Derbe. False.
Next day.
The next day. He didn't waste a lot of time, did he? Number 20, after converting souls to Christ, Paul and Barnabas confirmed and exhorted them to continue in the faith. Sorry. There's a word, confirmed them. Confirming. All right, that's true. Number 21, Paul and Barnabas thought the church could get along without any elders. That's false. They could not find men qualified for elders in every church. False. Paul and Barnabas went by boat from Italia to Antioch.
Look at the thing.
Did they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like it, and it sounded like that too in
Turn that way.
verses 25 and 26. said they went down into Italia and thence sailed to Antioch. Verse 26. 24, number 24. Acts 14:24 is the first mention we have of Pamphylia in the missionary work of Paul and Barnabas. It's false. Where else is that found? 13:13. Number 25, when the church was called together, Paul and Barnabas talked about what God had done with them instead of what they had done for God. True. What's the difference?
Big difference.
Big difference. To God be the glory, right? That's right.
What's chapter 14 about?
Chapter 14.
We just studied.
All right, we just studied. What's the chapter about? Paul, we were talking about this first missionary journey. We know it took them 2 years. It began back in chapter 13. What is it that he's talking about there? They know that they're going to have to suffer to do his work, right? Paul and Barnabas are finding that out. Paul, for certain, Paul was stoned here in this chapter. A lot goes into doing this work and getting this established. What are they finding out? The Gentiles are... I'm sorry? Several churches are established. Yes. Churches are established, confirmed, and elders are appointed. They sit in every city where they had preached and established a church.
Not without resistance.
But certainly not without resistance. But you also see, when you're thinking back into the beginning of the chapter there, where they're in Iconium and they do face the adversaries, they still... What does it say there back up in verse 1? It says, it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together into the synagogues of the Jews, and so spake that a great multitude both of Jews and also Greeks believed. So even though they faced this tense adversity here in the city of Iconium, they still had great success.
And what I think we could look at is that Barnabas was an encourager. Paul was very educated in the law, in the Jewish law. But what convicted these people? Was it Paul's great oratory thing?
It wasn't Paul's great speech, was it?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. No.
They were able to do signs and wonders, the miracles. That for sure helped to affirm what they were preaching. The words that they preached were what it was that saved them and cut them and got them to the point where they believed. All right. Anything else? All right. We probably have about 5 more minutes. So let's get started here in chapter 15. We kind of got a late start. And remember now, where are we at now? He's back in Antioch, so his first journey is over, right? So he is back in Antioch now, and does he take a break? No. He's still teaching, and he's still teaching and preaching, right? So we get into chapter 15. We're going to find that there's a problem that is raised here. And number 1 starts that off. It says, what were some of the men of Judea making a condition of salvation?
Tell the Gentiles they have to be circumcised.
Yes. Okay, and let's read verse 1. It says, and certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved.
But our Lord and Savior said, it's finished.
Yes.
That's it.
All right? So there really wasn't that condition. This is just a some of the men of Judea making a condition.
And there are churches and buildings all over this country that make up things. Well, in order to do this, you gotta do this. You gotta stand on one leg. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. You gotta have a secret handshake, whatever, all kinds of
Correct.
different things, And
There are different churches that come up with different ways to that this point, or that you reach the point of salvation. They have different ideas about how that is, how you get to the point of being saved, if you will. And here they were trying to add a condition that that Christ did not put in place. God did not put in place. He says there, except you be circumcised, you cannot be saved. And we have people making such claims even today. So be thinking more about chapter 15 there, and I didn't hear one bell, but we don't want to get too far into this and then just kind of have to stop in the middle. So we'll give you some more time to work on 15, and we'll pick up there next week. Any questions or comments? Again, it's a very good study of where it's really all starting, if you will. The church is growing and spreading out, and we see that churches are being established here and there, and we also see that what the apostles are having to deal with, what they're coming in contact with, and the adversity that they're facing, the challenges that they're facing. Not only the physical challenges of having to walk place to place and things like that, but the contentions that they have to deal with, and sometimes we'll find out later in this chapter, even among themselves.
This chapter, we see the conflict of hanging on to the law of Moses.
This is kind of where the Jews are kind of figuring out that they've got to accept the Gentiles, and they're still wanting to hang on to some of those traditions, and we see a lot of that. And it's going to continue to be an issue. Any more comments, questions? Thank you very much. You are dismissed. Thanks.